Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to talk about Saudi Arabia and their ambitions to trade in other, or their openness to trade in other currencies than the US dollar, or besides the US dollar. And we're also going to talk about them joining the BRICS, yeah. So, this is an article from the Middle East Eye. And it goes like this. Saudi Arabia opened the trading in currencies besides the US dollar. China has called for Saudi Arabia to price oil sales in yuan, a move that could dent the US dollar's dominance. Saudi Arabia will consider trading in currencies other than the US dollar, the country's finance minister said on Tuesday, in one of the clearest signs yet that the oil-rich kingdom is open to diversifying away from the greenback. There are no issues with discussing how we settle our trade agreements. Whether it is in the US dollar, whether it's in the euro, whether it's the Saudi riyal. The kingdom's finance minister Mohammed Al-Jadaan told Bloomberg TV on Tuesday in an interview in Davos, Switzerland. Jadaan's comments are likely to spark speculation about Riyadh's willingness to conduct oil sales in Chinese yuan. During a visit to the Gulf in December, Chinese President Xi Jinping told Arab leaders that Beijing would push to buy oil and gas in yuan as it looks to position its currency for use in international trade. Saudi Arabia, like other Gulf states, has pegged its currency to the dollar for decades. Oil sales across the globe are priced in US dollars. China accounts for more than a quarter of Saudi Arabia's crude exports. If the kingdom were to move toward a petro-yuan, it could dent the dollar's status as the world's reserve currency. We enjoy a very strategic relationship with China, and we enjoy the same strategic relationship with other nations, including the US, and we want to develop that with Europe and other countries who are willing and able to work with us, Jadaan said. One thing I gotta say is that Mohammed bin Salman, he has to be very careful. There can be, you never know. When you move away from the US dollar, a lot of leaders have been assassinated and killed. Gaddafi, Saddam Hussein. You have to be careful with that. Anyway, investing heavily. Separately, Jadaan said the kingdom will continue working to support countries like Turkey, Pakistan, and Egypt. While much of the world's grinding for a recession, Gulf states are basking in a fossil fuel windfall as the war in Ukraine drives up energy prices. On Wednesday, Saudi Arabia announced its first annual budget surplus in nearly a decade. Together with the UAE, Qatar, Saudi Arabia has injected billions of dollars into Egypt as the country copes with a foreign currency crunch and skyrocketing inflation. The IMF recently called support for the Gulf states a critical part of its $3 billion bailout for the Arab world's most populous nation. Unlike previous moves to shore up Egypt's economy, this time Gulf powers are being fussy, looking for a return on their money. Saudi Arabia is providing a lot of support to Egypt and will continue to, not directly through just grants and deposits, but also through investments, Jadaan said. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia has said it may increase investments in cash-strapped Pakistan by $10 billion. Last year, the kingdom extended the terms of its $3 billion deposit in Pakistan's central bank in a bid to boost Islamabad's foreign currency reserves. We are providing even oil derivatives to support their energy needs, Jadaan said. So there is a lot of efforts. We are investing heavily in these countries and we will continue to look for support for opportunities to invest, Jadaan added. It's very important to bring stability. So, I'm gonna read another article from the infobricks.org, which is like the BRICS information portal. So, here we go. United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia joining in BRICS will be game changing. If I remember it correctly, Saudi Arabia showed interest, or they actually sent in an application to join the BRICS back in December 2022. So, the Russia-Ukraine conflict accelerated a global trend aimed at creating an economic and financial universe parallel to the existing system. We have in the past highlighted the possibility of the GCC countries joining the BRICS grouping of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, whose population together constitute 41% of the world population. These countries also account for 23% of the global economy and 18% of trade, which reflects their relative importance to the global economy as a whole. Recently, Saudi Arabia applied to join the group, a move warmly welcomed by existing members. Discussions are also being held about the prospect of the UAE and Turkey joining as well, which will lead to a fundamental change in the global power dynamics and help create a more balanced order. The likely occasion of the three countries means a huge change that will tip the balance in favor of the East. Saudi Arabia, with its enormous potential and energy, the UAE as a global commercial and financial center, and Turkey, with its location, industrial and technological growth, will add significant influence to the group and redistribute power between East and West. More than tuned to geography, it goes without saying that a stronger BRICS means further dividing the world into two large blocks. The first will be led by the Western camps, which currently controls the levers of the global economy. The bloc includes Japan and Australia, while the Eastern power base is formed through the BRICS economies, despite the presence of Brazil in their midst. This means an intensified geopolitical competition ahead. The accession of oil producing countries would mean the group dominates with 31% of global oil production, in itself a dramatic development that will have a fundamental effects on international relations, simply because the world will see an integration in BRICS, the most important producers and consumers of energy. Further, the presence of key commercial and logistical centers within the group means greater control over global trade. Right Cold War mindsets. The West is attempting to hold on to its historical positions, which it greatly bolstered after World War II, and attempting to resist any change in the structure of the global economy. Precisely. At the same time making mistake after mistake by ignoring and failing to take into account the significant changes. Consequently, it has lost significant supporters who have considerable political and economic clout. As for the opposing pole, it acts cleverly with an open mind and equitable interactions with other nations, and embracing the dictum of shared interests. More are likely to join BRICS in years to come if the Western Bloc does not alter its antiquated ideologies and practices. Two opposing economic and financial poles will eventually emerge. The BRICS states announced the creation of a parallel bank with $150 billion dollars capital as a competitor to the IMF. Additionally, the Ukrainian crisis has significantly strengthened economic and trade ties between group members, making them more dependent on one another. Numerous businesses and institutions withdrew from the markets of the BRICS countries, and export restrictions were put in place in some high-tech goods to Russia and China. work towards an equitable global order. An expansion of BRICS may greatly contribute to the establishment of equitable relations based on the interests of many countries rather than on discord between countries in either pole, all of which requires through understanding of global events and outcomes. The existing economic system and its components founded 80 years ago are no longer feasible owing to massive changes in the economic and geopolitical balance of power, the emergence of new economic powers, and the downfall of other. The truth should be properly understood if the world needs to avoid further conflicts getting in the way of an equitable global order. So, I totally agree with this article. It makes sense. But to be quite clear, is the Biden White House is probably one of the most hated administrations right now. I mean, in terms of globally, even U.S. allies are turning their backs on Biden, Israel, Saudi Arabia, and it's one of the reasons why Saudi Arabia was so keen to sort of stab Biden in the back was because Mohammed bin Salman never really had a good relationship with the guy. Biden talked about, that he will make sure that bin Salman will pay for the murder of Mohammed Khashoggi, which pissed him off. And don't get me wrong, Mohammed bin Salman is one cold-blooded, crazy guy. His genocidal war in Yemen and the Khashoggi murder pretty much proves that. But this is a game changer, definitely, and will give a major blow to the US dollar. I don't think, and many other experts agree, that the West will just completely disappear in terms of relevance. Obviously, America will have a role, but America and the EU will not have this dominating role as it used to have. And one of the other reasons that many countries are turning to the BRICS union is because they're sick and tired of the West sort of giving them lectures on morality and ethics and values and, the goddamn values. The same values that put Assange behind prison bars, right? So the same values that, when they destroy nation states like Libya, Syria, and so forth. But this is a pretty huge thing as well because Saudi Arabia and Russia, for instance, haven't always had the best relationship. Same thing with Russia and Turkey, right? Saudi Arabia, with its Wahhabi ideology back in the day, used to support, for instance, Islamist insurgencies in Chechnya, Caucasus, and Central Asia, together with the CIA. So, and then you have the whole Afghan crisis back in the 80s and late 70s. So their relationship have had a pretty bad turmoil. And if we're going to speak about newer cases, we're talking about Syria and Libya to a certain extent, although Russia wasn't really maybe involved as it should have been. But back then, Russia was much more weaker economically and militarily. So yeah, but things are definitely changing on the global political and economic order. Please share, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.